Welcome to my channel, Spooky's Stories.
Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine for no reason? Walking through New Jersey's most haunted places, I felt it. The cold air, the whispers, the shadows that seemed to move when no one was there. Every step made my heart race, and I couldn't tell if it was fear or curiosity pushing me forward. Tonight, we're uncovering 15 haunted locations where the past refuses to rest. If you're brave enough to explore these haunted places with me, hit that like button and subscribe to Spooky's Stories for more chilling adventures you won't want to miss. 1. The Devil's Tree in Bernards Township, NJ. I had always been skeptical about haunted places, thinking they were just stories people told to scare kids. One late October evening, a friend dared me to go with him to the Devil's Tree in Bernards Township, New Jersey. It was said to be cursed, and locals avoided it at all costs. I didn't believe a tree could be haunted, but curiosity got the better of me. As we drove down the long, empty road, the sky darkened and a thick fog began rolling in. The forest felt alive, almost watching us, and I suddenly felt my heart beat faster than usual. When we finally reached the tree, it was massive, with twisted, blackened branches that seemed to claw at the sky. The ground around it was bare, and the air felt heavier, like it was pressing down on us. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself it was just my imagination, but my hands were shaking and I couldn't stop looking over my shoulder. My friend, who had been joking the entire way, fell silent too, his smile gone. We decided to walk closer to the tree, and the moment I stepped near the roots, I felt an unexplainable chill crawl up my spine. A strange buzzing sound filled the air, and I could swear I heard whispers, just faint enough to make me question if I was really hearing them. I turned my flashlight slowly around the tree, and the shadows cast by its gnarled branches seemed to move independently. Suddenly, I saw a faint outline of something standing behind the tree, and I froze. My brain screamed, "Run!" but my feet felt like they were cemented to the ground. After what felt like an eternity, my friend grabbed my arm and we ran back to the car without looking back. Even from the safety of the headlights, I could feel the tree's presence, like it was watching, waiting. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow in my room felt too dark, every creak in the house too loud. I realized that some stories aren't just tales, they are warnings. I will never go back to that place, but the memory of the Devil's Tree follows me, always lingering in the back of my mind. 2. Red Mill Museum Village in Clinton, New Jersey. I had always loved exploring old historic places, but nothing prepared me for the feeling I got the first time I visited Red Mill Museum Village in Clinton, New Jersey. It was late afternoon in November, and the sun was dipping behind the trees, casting long shadows across the cobblestone paths. I was there with my cousin, both of us hoping to capture some old photography shots, but the air felt heavier than normal, like every step carried a weight I couldn't see. As we walked closer to the Red Mill, I noticed the windows were dark, even though the museum was technically closed. I joked with my cousin that maybe it was haunted, but my voice sounded too loud, and for a second it echoed in a way that felt wrong, almost unnatural. The wind blew through the old structure, making the wooden beams creak, and suddenly I had a strange feeling that we weren't alone. My heart started pounding, but I couldn't turn back yet. We moved along the riverbank behind the mill, and I swear I saw movement in one of the windows. It wasn't a person, but a shadow, flickering and twisting. I stopped in my tracks, and my cousin tugged at my sleeve, whispering that he saw it too. Every instinct in me screamed to leave, but I felt this inexplicable pull toward the mill. We stepped closer to the building, and then, almost simultaneously, both of us heard a faint voice, barely more than a whisper, calling a name I couldn't recognize. Suddenly, my camera clicked on its own in my hand, capturing a photo of the empty space in front of the mill. We ran back toward the parking lot, adrenaline pumping and breaths heavy. Even in the safety of the car, the hairs on my arms stood on end. The feeling of being watched lingered, and that night I couldn't shake it. Looking at the photos later, one frame showed a faint shadow near the doorway that no one in the group could have cast. I realized some places keep their history alive, not just in objects, but in something far more eerie. Red Mill Museum Village wasn't just old, it was alive in ways I couldn't explain, and I knew I would never forget that visit.
3. Ringwood Manor, Ringwood, NJ. I had always been fascinated by old mansions, but nothing prepared me for my first visit to Ringwood Manor in Ringwood, New Jersey. It was a chilly October evening, and the fog rolled over the hills like a silent curtain. I went there with 2 friends, thinking we'd just explore the historic estate and maybe take some pictures. But as soon as we stepped onto the front path, the air changed. It felt heavier, almost like the house was aware of our presence. The manor looked beautiful in the fading light, but its large windows seemed to stare back at us. We joked nervously about ghosts, but I could feel my stomach tighten with unease. The creaking of the old wooden floors echoed too loudly as we entered the main hall. Every shadow cast by the flickering flashlight seemed to move on its own, and I kept expecting something or someone to appear. We wandered through the rooms, and I noticed cold drafts coming from areas with no windows. Then I heard it, a soft, barely audible whisper calling my name. I froze, gripping my camera tightly, my fingers shaking. My friend whispered that he heard it too, and a chill ran down my spine. We decided to explore the second floor, and as we climbed the stairs, the temperature dropped sharply. The wooden steps groaned under our weight, and for a moment I thought I heard footsteps behind us, though no one was there. In one of the rooms, I noticed a chair slowly rocking back and forth on its own. I wanted to run, but something kept me rooted to the spot, curiosity battling fear. Finally, we hurried out of the mansion and onto the lawn, trying to shake off the feeling that something had been watching us the entire time. Even back in the car, the estate seemed to loom in the distance, as though it had marked us. That night, I couldn't sleep, replaying every sound, every shadow. Later, looking at my photographs, I noticed faint shapes in several frames that none of us had seen at the time. Ringwood Manor isn't just a historic house. It's a place where history and the unknown seem to live side by side, and I knew that my visit would haunt me forever.
4. Emlyn Physic Estate, Cape May, New Jersey. I had always loved old Victorian houses, but visiting Emlyn Physic Estate in Cape May, New Jersey was unlike anything I had experienced before. It was late November, and the cold wind from the ocean carried an eerie stillness. I went there with a friend, hoping to explore the historic mansion and capture some photographs, but the moment I stepped onto the property, I felt an unusual heaviness in the air. The estate was magnificent, with its towering spires and intricate windows, yet there was something about it that made my skin crawl. Every step on the wooden porch echoed in the quiet, and I felt as though unseen eyes were following us. My friend, who had been joking around moments earlier, suddenly fell silent, and I realized I could hear my own heartbeat in the stillness. As we walked through the grand halls, the sunlight fading through the tall windows created long, twisting shadows that danced across the walls. I thought I saw a fleeting movement in one of the corners, but when I looked again, there was nothing there. Then I heard it, a soft, barely audible whisper calling my name. I froze, gripping my camera tightly, my fingers shaking. My friend whispered that he heard it too, and a chill ran down my spine. We decided to explore the second floor, and as we climbed the stairs, the temperature dropped sharply. The wooden steps groaned under our weight, and for a moment I thought I heard footsteps behind us, though no one was there. In one of the rooms, I noticed a chair slowly rocking back and forth on its own. I wanted to run, but something kept me rooted to the spot, curiosity battling fear. Finally, we hurried out of the mansion and onto the lawn, trying to shake off the feeling that something had been watching us the entire time. Even back in the car, the estate seemed to loom in the distance, as though it had marked us. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in my house reminded me of the groaning floors and whispering voices of Emlyn Physic Estate. I realized some historic places hold more than just memories. They hold echoes of lives long gone, and the estate's presence stayed with me long after I left. 5. Burlington County Prison Museum, Mount Holly, New Jersey. I had always been fascinated by historic prisons, so visiting the Burlington County Prison Museum in Mount Holly, New Jersey was something I had been looking forward to. It was a cold October evening, and the sun had just set when I arrived with 2 friends. The building, with its tall brick walls and iron-barred windows, looked imposing even in the fading light. I thought I was just excited to see history up close, but I had no idea what awaited me inside. As soon as we stepped into the main hall, a strange heaviness fell over me. The air smelled old and damp, and every sound, our footsteps, the creak of the doors, echoed unnaturally. I could feel a chill running through my body, but I kept convincing myself it was just the drafty old prison. My friends were quiet too, as if the building itself demanded silence. We explored the cells first. Each one was small and dark, with remnants of old beds and metal shackles. As I looked into one of the cells, I felt a sudden drop in temperature and my breath fog in front of me. Then I heard it, a faint whispering, almost like someone was reciting names. I froze, gripping my camera tightly, my fingers shaking. My friend whispered that he heard it too, and a chill ran down my spine. We decided to explore the second floor, and as we climbed the stairs, the temperature dropped sharply. The wooden steps groaned under our weight, and for a moment I thought I heard footsteps behind us, though no one was there. In one of the rooms, I noticed a chair slowly rocking back and forth on its own. I wanted to run, but something kept me rooted to the spot, curiosity battling fear. Finally, we hurried out of the mansion and onto the lawn, trying to shake off the feeling that something had been watching us the entire time. Even back in the car, the prison seemed to loom in the distance, as though it had marked us. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in my house reminded me of the groaning floors and whispering voices of the Burlington County Prison Museum. I realized some places don't just hold history, they hold the memories of those who suffered there, and their echoes can reach the living in ways you never expect.
6. Seabrook Wilson House, the Spy House, Port Monmouth, New Jersey. I had always been fascinated by historic houses, especially ones rumored to be haunted, so when a friend suggested we visit the Seabrook Wilson House, also known as the Spy House, in Port Monmouth, New Jersey, I agreed immediately. It was late evening in October, and the fog from the nearby river curled around the property like a silent warning. I thought we were just going for a fun exploration, but the moment we stepped onto the grounds, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. The house was dark and imposing, its old wooden siding creaking under the wind. Every step we took on the porch made a loud groaning sound, echoing into the still night. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice sounded hollow, swallowed by the silence around us. My friend, usually full of jokes, stayed quiet, and I realized we were both holding our breath without knowing it. As we entered the house, the air changed completely. It smelt of old wood and something faintly metallic, like iron. The floors creaked beneath our weight, and every shadow seemed to twitch just out of my corner of eye. In one of the rooms, I saw a rocking chair move slightly on its own, though no one had touched it. My heart pounded in my chest as a faint whispering sound drifted through the hallway, almost like someone was speaking directly to me. We explored the second floor carefully, our flashlights scanning the walls and ceiling. I could feel my pulse racing, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. At one point, I thought I saw a shadowy figure standing in a doorway, but when I blinked, it vanished. My friend whispered that he felt the same presence, and I realized we weren't imagining it. We hurried out of the house, gasping for air, feeling as though something unseen was following us. Even from the safety of our car, I felt a lingering weight, as if the house itself had left a mark on me.
That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in my house reminded me of the groaning floors and whispering voices of the Seabrook Wilson house. I understood then that some historic places aren't just buildings. They carry the energy and memories of the past, and sometimes those memories refuse to rest. 7. Clinton Road, West Milford, New Jersey. I had heard the legends about Clinton Road for years, but I never believed them. They said the road was haunted, that ghostly figures appeared at night, and that strange things happened to anyone who dared to drive through. One chilly October night, my friends dared me to go with them, and curiosity got the better of me. The moment we turned onto the road, the air felt different, heavier, colder, and filled with a silence that was almost unnatural. The road was narrow, surrounded by thick woods, and the fog hung low, twisting around the trees like smoke. My car headlights barely cut through it. At first, I tried to laugh off the tension, but soon I noticed how quiet it had become. Not a single sound, except our own breathing and the tires crunching over the gravel. Then I saw it. A figure standing on the side of the road, just a shadow in the mist. I blinked, and it was gone. My friends froze too, whispering that they saw it as well. As we drove further, the road seemed to stretch endlessly, and the feeling of being watched grew stronger. I felt a cold draft brush past my shoulder, though the windows were rolled up. Every few minutes we thought we saw headlights behind us, but when we turned, no one was there. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my heart racing. Suddenly, we heard a loud thump against the car. My friend screamed and I slammed the brakes. There was nothing outside, just the dark, foggy forest. By the time we reached the end of Clinton Road, none of us spoke. The silence was suffocating, and even after leaving, I could feel the road's presence lingering in my mind. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the shadow in the fog, and I remembered the chill, the thump, and the eerie stillness of Clinton Road. Clinton Road isn't just a road. It's a place where fear lives, and even for someone like me, who thought it was all just stories, that night proved some legends are real.
8. The Pine Barrens, South Jersey, NJ. I had always loved exploring forests, but nothing prepared me for the night I spent in the Pine Barrens in South Jersey. It was late October, and the sun had just dipped below the horizon, leaving a dim, cold light that barely touched the twisted pines around us. A few friends and I decided to hike a little-known trail, laughing at the old stories of the Jersey Devil that locals always warned about. I thought it was all just folklore, but that night changed everything. As we walked deeper into the forest, the air grew colder, and the silence was almost deafening. Every snap of a twig underfoot made me jump, and I noticed my friends were unusually quiet too. Then, I thought I heard a low growl somewhere off the trail. I stopped, trying to tell myself it was just an animal, but the sound was different. It didn't belong to any creature I knew. My heart started racing, and the forest suddenly felt alive, watching us. We decided to keep moving, but the trail seemed to twist and turn in ways that didn't make sense. At one point, I saw something dart between the trees, tall and shadowy, too fast to identify. I blinked, and it vanished. My friend whispered that he felt something brushing past him, even though no wind was blowing. The stories about the Jersey Devil and ghostly figures didn't feel like stories anymore. They felt real. As night fell completely, we realized we had lost the trail. Panic set in. The forest seemed endless, and every shadow looked like it was moving toward us. I could feel my chest tighten, every nerve screaming to run. Finally, we stumbled onto a small clearing and saw the lights of a distant road. Relief washed over us, but even then, the feeling of being watched lingered. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow outside my window reminded me of the twisted trees and flickering movements in the pine barrens. I realized the forest keeps its secrets, and some legends, like the Jersey Devil, may not be entirely false. The experience stayed with me, a reminder that some places are alive in ways we can't explain. 9. Proprietary House, Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
I had always been fascinated by historic buildings, but visiting the proprietary house in Perth Amboy, New Jersey was unlike any experience I had before. It was a chilly evening in November, and the sky was overcast, casting a dull gray light over the mansion. I went there with a friend, hoping to explore the historic site and maybe take some photographs. From the moment we stepped onto the grounds, I felt an unusual heaviness in the air, like the building itself was aware of our presence. The house looked beautiful and grand, yet there was something unsettling about it. The windows reflected the dim light eerily, and every step on the wooden porch echoed unnaturally. I tried to brush it off as nerves, but my stomach twisted uncomfortably. My friend, usually chatty, remained silent, glancing around as if sensing the same unease. As we entered the main hall, the air grew colder, and a strange smell of old wood and dust mixed with something metallic lingered. The floors creaked under our weight, and every shadow seemed to stretch and move independently. I thought I saw a faint figure near the grand staircase, but when I blinked, it vanished. My friend whispered that he felt something brushing past him, even though no wind was blowing. The stories about the Jersey Devil and ghostly figures didn't feel like stories anymore, they felt real. As night fell completely, we realized we had lost the trail. Panic set in. The forest seemed endless, and every shadow looked like it was moving toward us. I could feel my chest tighten, every nerve screaming to run. Finally, we stumbled onto a small clearing and saw the lights of a distant road. Relief washed over us, but even then, the feeling of being watched lingered in my chest. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in my house reminded me of the twisted trees and flickering movements in the proprietary house. I realized some historic places don't just hold memories, they hold the presence of the past, and sometimes that presence refuses to rest.
10. Absecon Lighthouse, Atlantic City, New Jersey. I'd always been drawn to lighthouses, their history and isolation calling to me. But visiting the Absecon Lighthouse in Atlantic City, New Jersey, turned out to be far more intense than I expected. It was a chilly autumn evening, and the wind from the ocean cut through my jacket like knives. I went there with two friends, hoping to explore and take photos. But the moment we stepped onto the lighthouse grounds, I felt a strange weight in the air, like the building itself was aware of us. The lighthouse towered above us, its white walls pale in the dim light. The surrounding area was quiet, almost too quiet, with the waves crashing faintly in the distance. Every step we took on the old wooden stairs echoed unnaturally, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. My friends joked nervously about ghost stories, but even their laughter felt forced, as if the building was swallowing it whole. As we climbed higher, the temperature dropped sharply, and I could see my breath in front of me. Shadows stretched across the walls, moving in ways that didn't match our steps. I thought I saw a figure standing near the railing at the top, but when I blinked, it vanished. My heart started racing, and I could feel goosebumps rising all over. Then came a faint whisper, almost like a soft sigh, that seemed to echo from the spiral staircase itself. When we finally reached the top, the view of the city lights should have been calming, but it wasn't. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming. A sudden creak behind me made me spin around, but no one was there. I could feel my pulse pounding as adrenaline coursing through me, urging me to leave immediately. We hurried down the stairs and out into the night, the wind stinging our faces. Even as we drove away, the lighthouse seemed to linger in my mind, its presence heavy and unshakable. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every distant creak, every gust of wind reminded me of the Absecon Lighthouse, its cold shadows and whispering voices. I realized that some places don't just hold light, they hold echoes of the past that never fade.
11 Mettler Bodine House, Piscataway, New Jersey. I had always been intrigued by old houses with long histories, so when a friend suggested visiting the Mettler Bodine House in Piscataway, New Jersey, I agreed immediately. It was a late autumn evening, and the sun had just set behind the trees, leaving the house in a dim, gray light. I didn't expect much, just a quiet exploration, but the moment I stepped onto the grounds, I felt an unsettling heaviness in the air,
like the house itself was aware of our presence. The house looked charming at first glance, with its colonial architecture, but something about it felt off. The windows reflected the fading light eerily, and every step on the creaking porch sounded louder than it should. My friend, usually talkative, stayed silent, his eyes scanning the shadows. I felt my stomach tighten with unease, and for the first time, I wished we hadn't come so late. Inside, the air was cold and stale, carrying the scent of old wood and something faintly metallic, almost like history itself had settled in the corners. Every step we took on the creaking wooden floors echoed through the empty space, and I noticed my friend's usually cheerful expression had turned serious. I felt a shiver run down my spine as shadows seemed to flicker along the walls, moving just slightly when I wasn't looking directly at them. I wandered through the main room, where old portraits and artifacts lined the walls. I thought I saw a figure in one of the darkened corners, tall and still, but when I blinked, it was gone. Then came the faintest whisper, almost like someone muttering just behind me. My heart started racing, and I realized my friends had stopped talking, their eyes wide with the same unease I felt. As we explored the upstairs rooms, the temperature dropped sharply. A cold draft brushed past me, and I felt an invisible presence standing too close. One of the chairs moved slightly, though no one was near it. My friend whispered that he felt the same presence I did, and I realized this wasn't just our imagination. Every creak and shadow seemed alive, and I could sense the weight of the house's history pressing down on us. Finally, we hurried out to the lawn and breathing the cool night air. Even as we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had been watched the entire time. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak and shadow in my home reminded me of the Mettler Bodine house, its shadows, and the voices that seemed to linger long after we left. Some houses don't just hold history, they hold echoes of the past that refuse to rest.
12. Seven Stars Tavern, Hackensack, New Jersey. I had always been curious about historic taverns, especially ones rumored to be haunted. So when a friend suggested we visit the Seven Stars Tavern in Hackensack, New Jersey, I agreed immediately. It was a cold, rainy evening in November, and the tavern's old brick walls loomed in the dim light of the street lamps. I thought we were just going for a casual visit, but the moment I stepped inside, I felt a strange heaviness, like the building itself was alive and aware of us. The tavern smelled of old wood, beer, and something faintly metallic, almost like history itself had settled in the corners. Every step we took on the creaking wooden floors echoed through the empty space, and I noticed my friend's usually cheerful expression had turned serious. I felt a shiver run down my spine as shadows seemed to flicker along the walls, moving just slightly when I wasn't looking directly at them. We wandered through the main room, where old portraits and artifacts lined the walls. I thought I saw a figure in one of the darkened corners, tall and still, but when I blinked, it was gone. Then came the faintest whisper, almost like someone muttering just behind me. My heart started racing, and I realized my friends had stopped talking, their eyes wide with the same unease I felt. As we explored the upstairs rooms, the temperature dropped sharply. A cold draft brushed past me, and I felt an invisible presence standing too close. One of the chairs moved slightly, though no one was near it. My friend whispered that he could feel it too, and I could no longer convince myself that it was just imagination. Every sound, every shadow seemed alive, and I felt as if the tavern itself was testing our courage. Finally, We hurried down the stairs and out into the night, gasping for air and feeling the weight of the building lift slightly. Even after leaving, the feeling lingered in my chest. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak and shadow reminded me of the Seven Stars Tavern, its whispering voices, and the eerie presence that refused to leave. Some places hold history, but others hold something more. Something that stays with you long after you've gone.
13. Union Hotel, Flemington, New Jersey. I had always been drawn to old hotels with a history, but visiting the Union Hotel in Flemington, New Jersey was an experience I'll never forget. It was late October, and a cold wind swept through the streets, rustling fallen leaves along the sidewalk. I went there with a friend, expecting just a quiet exploration and some photographs. But from the moment we stepped inside, I felt an unusual weight in the air, as if the building itself was watching us. The lobby was dimly lit, and the smell of aged wood and dust filled my lungs. Every step we took on the creaking floors echoed strangely, bouncing off the walls and making my stomach tighten. My friend, usually joking around, went silent, and I realized we were both tense. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, and for a moment I thought I saw a figure vanish near the staircase. We moved upstairs, exploring the narrow hallways lined with old rooms. The temperature dropped sharply, and my breath fogged in front of me. Then came the whisper, a soft, almost pleading voice, calling a name I didn't recognize. I froze, my heart pounding, and my friend whispered that he heard it too. Every instinct screamed to leave, but my curiosity kept me rooted. As we peeked into one of the empty rooms, I noticed a rocking chair moving slightly, though no one was near it. The shadows in the corners seemed alive, stretching toward us with the flickering light from our flashlights. I could feel my pulse racing, a mix of fear and awe as the building seemed to breathe around us. Finally, we hurried back down the stairs and out into the night, gasping for air. Even as we drove away, the heavy feeling stayed with me, like the hotel had left a mark on my mind. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak and whisper outside reminded me of the Union Hotel, its shadowy corners, and the voices that seemed to linger long after we left. Some places aren't just buildings, they're living memories, and the Union Hotel carries them in ways you can feel but never fully explain. 14. Day Mansion, Wayne, New Jersey. I had always been drawn to old mansions, especially those with a dark history. So when a friend suggested visiting the Day Mansion in Wayne, New Jersey, I couldn't resist. It was a crisp November evening, and the sun had already set, leaving the mansion surrounded by long, eerie shadows. From the moment we approached the front gates, I felt a strange heaviness in the air, as if the house itself was aware of our presence. The mansion loomed over us, its brick walls and tall windows giving it a grand yet foreboding look. Every step on the gravel path echoed loudly, and the silence of the surrounding grounds amplified it. My friend and I exchanged nervous glances, but kept moving forward. I felt a cold chill brush past me, though there was no wind, making me shiver involuntarily. Inside, the air was heavy with the old wood and faint mildew. The floors creaked beneath our weight, and the shadows cast by our flashlights seemed to stretch and twist unnaturally. I thought I saw a shadow move quickly along the staircase, but when I looked directly, it was gone. A faint whisper reached my ears, soft and almost pleading, calling a name I didn't recognize. I froze, my heart pounding, and my friend whispered that he heard it too. Every instinct screamed to leave, but my curiosity kept me rooted. As we explored several rooms upstairs, I noticed a chair rocking slightly on its own. The atmosphere felt suffocating, and I could sense the weight of the mansion's history pressing down on us.
Every creak, every shifting shadow made my pulse quicken. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't stop looking around, captivated by the eerie presence that seemed alive. Finally, we hurried outside, breathing in the cool night air. Even as we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. That night, every creak and whisper reminded me of the Day Mansion, its shadows and the voices that lingered long after we left. Some places don't just hold history, they hold the presence of the past, and sometimes that presence refuses to rest. 15. Shippen Manor Museum, Oxford, New Jersey. I had always been fascinated by historic sites, especially those with whispers of the supernatural. So when a friend suggested visiting the Shippen Manor Museum in Oxford, New Jersey, I couldn't say no. It was a chilly autumn evening, and the sun had already set, leaving the manor surrounded by the long shadows of old trees. From the moment we stepped onto the property, I felt an odd heaviness in the air, like the manor itself was aware of our presence. The building looked grand but foreboding, with its brick walls and tall windows reflecting the fading light. Every step on the gravel path echoed unnaturally, and the quiet of the surrounding grounds made the sound almost deafening. I could feel a chill crawling up my spine, and my friend, usually talkative, went silent, his eyes scanning the shadows like he sensed something we couldn't see. Inside, the air smelled of old wood, dust, and something faintly metallic, like history itself had settled in the walls. The floors groaned beneath our weight, and the shadows cast by our flashlights seemed to twist and shift unnaturally. I thought I saw a figure standing near a doorway, tall and motionless, but when I blinked, it was gone. My heart pounded, and a soft whisper echoed through the hall, almost like someone calling my name from the past. We explored the upstairs rooms carefully, each creaking floorboard amplifying my unease. A chair moved slightly on its own, and I felt a cold draft brush past me, even though the windows were closed. My friend whispered that he felt the same presence, and I realized this wasn't just imagination. The manor seemed alive with echoes of the past, each shadow and sound carrying a story that refused to rest. Finally, we hurried outside, gasping for the cool night air. Even as we drove away, the manor's presence lingered in my mind, heavy and unshakable. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak and whisper outside reminded me of the Shippen Manor Museum, its shadows, and the voices that seemed to linger long after we left. Some places don't just hold history, they hold the presence of the past. And sometimes, that presence refuses to rest.